Let's go straight to my next guest. He's a Conservative MP, former Security Minister, Tom Tugendhat. A very good morning to you.
Julia, how are you? It's nice to see you.
Lovely to see you. I just want to check you're still a Conservative MP, not planning to be one of those who moves to reform?
Julia, no, you know me.
Gotta
I
ask.
am loyal to a fault, and I am staying loyal to the Conservative Party as I've always been loyal to the country.
Suella Braverman said that the Tories lacked courage and backbone, and basically, you know, she says she thinks she's come home to the Reform Party. There'll be a lot of, we had, you know, two very, very different views from different callers this morning on this. But some will say, like, well, they don't want a bunch of old Tories, particularly, you know, Boris Johnson's old government being putting the band back together. Others saying, look, we need the experience. But others also saying, like, Reform is now the right-wing party in this country, not Conservatives. It's full of people like, you know, your Ruth Davidsons, your Andy Streeters and their Prosper group, which is basically, I mean, it could be Lib Dem or Blair, couldn't it?
Well, first of all, you know, I like Andy and I like Ruth, but
so do I.
They're not in the parliamentary party, and, you know, they're welcome to have their own opinions on many things, and they've got free opinions. Now, you know this too, Julia. I happen to rather like, you know, Suella as well. We worked together at the Home Office when I was the Security Minister. We got on very well. You know, and the problem is I agree with Suella, but historically, you know, she's absolutely right that the Conservative Party and the, you know, those days when, frankly, immigration ran away with us and, you know, it was appalling, and you've heard my criticism of it, where, you know, I didn't get quite all the laws through that I wanted to get through on national security. I got a big National Security Act through, but I didn't get as much through as I wanted. You know, I would agree with her. The problem is, I don't agree with her today because I can see that Kemi's turning that around. So I'm slightly, you know, I don't want to be rude about any of my friends, and I certainly don't want to be rude about Suella, but I just feel that slightly historic criticism, that's all.
You see, yeah, she's out of date. The party's moved on and changed under Kemi Badenoch.
Yeah, I think it has. I really do. And I think, you know, just look at the way that Kemi has grasped the nettle on ECHR. You know, she's been absolutely clear on it. You know, I started talking about it during the leadership whenever it was, 18 months ago. In fact, I started talking about it for the first time in 2013. You very kindly covered it in 2015-16 when we were talking about lawfare and the problems of the ECHR and the battlefield.
Yeah.
But Kemi's made that absolutely clear. You know, we've taken a lot of things on. And do you want to criticise the last, you know, certainly the last 5 of the last 14 years? Yeah, fine. I get it, right? I mean, I completely understand. Not only do I understand, I share a lot of the criticism. But that's what Kemi's turning around, and that's what we've got to turn around to deliver, you know, not just lower migration, but actually making sure that this country works again.
I mean, that would be a good start. I mean, economic news is not looking good at the moment, but the Prime Minister is hoping, and he travels to China tonight, that he is going to be turning that around with trying to do some sort of trade deal with, you know, the second biggest economy in the world. You know, never hear Keir, kowtow Keir. He's been called everything under the book. We've now got this revelation that under the Tories, and who are we kidding? Probably right now as well. The Chinese have been spying on not just the Prime Minister's 3 in a row, and who knows this one, aides, but probably on the Prime Ministers themselves, telephones, and hacking those. How secure are we? And does the Prime Minister even need to go to China? Because, you know, he's given them the Chinese embassy just across the road. I mean, he gives them everything they want. He's buying all of their, you know, coal-fired factory-made solar panels, EV cars and everything else. What more do they want from him?
Well, look, you know, Julia, that I have been warning about this for years. And, you know, while I was Security Minister, we caught more spies, more Russian and Chinese spies than the 20 years before, because we put the absolute focus on it. Is the truth that we caught all of them? Of course it isn't. And does it mean that it's gone away? Of course it hasn't. We know very well that everything from electric vehicles, which are, let's face it, just connected vehicles, as in they're connected to the internet, so they listen to absolutely everything that's going on in and around them, or whether it's about the hacking of phones, which is a bit harder, but, you know, we know that the Chinese state has done it. We know that it's ongoing, and, you know, we caught them a bit. I hope we're more secure today. We certainly set up procedures to be more secure.
I love you say hope.
I hope Labour are following them.
I mean, we hope we're more secure. I doubt very much that we are, though.
I can't tell you whether Labour's following the same procedures. That's all. That's why I'm saying that. The reality is that we do improve the technology as it goes.
But so do the Chinese.
Sorry?
So do the Chinese.
Yeah, but so do the... Look, you're absolutely right. I mean, what can I say? I mean, my own criticism is not so much on that, though I do find the defense that some people have given, about this embassy stuff, where some people have said, oh, well, everybody spies on everybody. Yeah, but it's our job to stop them spying on us. And in any way excusing it is completely wrong. So actually, I'm pretty hard line on that. But the trip to China, I just think it's a mistake. And let me tell you why it's a mistake. It's a mistake because he's not going to get much out of it. He might get a little bit of investment, but Rachel Reeves only got £120 million a year, which is less than many companies invest in the UK. It's pathetic, really. And what he's actually going to do is he's giving a big win to the Chinese emperor at the time when the chairman of the Chinese Communist Party is currently under a huge amount of pressure because of all the fights going on within the People's Liberation Army. And he's doing it without really getting anything in return. Where's Jimmy Lai? Still in prison. Yeah. Where's the, where's the threats against our universities? Still happening. Where's the pressure on Hong Kongers in the United Kingdom? Still going on. What's he got for this?
But it is very interesting. You just said Chinese emperor, and it's the and it's the president. But yeah, he is an emperor.
Sorry, my mistake.
No, I think it was very accurate. It was very accurate. He has purged all of his possible challengers, even his childhood friend, the most senior military general. He is now in absolute control of China. He is, as someone described on the radio this morning, actually, Donald Trump may lead the biggest military, the biggest economy, but he is the single most powerful individual man because he doesn't stand for election, not real elections, and he has absolute power. He doesn't have to deal with a Democratic Congress or anything like, or a Supreme Court. There is a big danger of trying to sort of cozy up to a murderous, tyrannical regime, which means nothing but ill towards us. What don't they get about that?
Look, Julia, you're preaching to the choir. I have been warning about this since 2016, 17. I can't remember exactly when, but around then. Because it is completely obvious to me that the difference between China and other states. So look, you don't need me to tell you this, but I'm not a fan of Russia, I'm not a fan of Iran. But the difference with those two states and China is they are violent insurgents trying to beat around the edge of our area of trade and commerce and exchange. The difference with China is they're trying to break it down. What they're trying to do is they're trying to break down the system where we exchange goods and services between nations of equals into one that simply goes via Beijing. Yep. Now, that's not only bad for us, it's actually bad for China too, but they don't care because it doesn't matter what's good for China. It matters what's good for the Chinese Communist Party, not what's good for the Chinese people.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can see that by the falling demographics. You can see that by the prison camps. You can see it by the repression of minorities, including the Uyghurs who are in camps all over Xinjiang, all by the arrests of Hong Kongers in Hong Kong. It is all about the Communist Party. And that's what we're seeing.
Let me ask you finally about a Palestinian family who have been refused the right to settle in the UK because that would be, we're told, a step too far in risking national security. It's good to know there is actually a step too far. Family of six is taking legal action against the Home Office and the Foreign Office after being refused onward travel assurances which are necessary for them to leave Gaza. Lawyers for the government have said that it was UK policy not to allow foreign nationals into the country without biometric checks, etc., etc. These checks cannot be carried out in Gaza, so they basically they'd have to go via Jordan, and they wouldn't be able to do this without this agreement from the British to let them arrive. This is a long-running legal action. Basically, they're trying to. Shabana Mahmood is, all credit to her, is trying to restrict the ability of migrants to use the European Convention on Human Rights to come and live in the UK. But the point about this case is they're trying to use a scheme that was meant very specifically and quite categorically in the legislation for Ukrainian refugees to come here on a temporary basis, to open it up to basically anyone in Gaza who's got a rotten life there, which is literally everybody apart from the Hamas leaders, to come to this country. I mean, this is the right decision to keep these people out. I don't care whether they're kids or they're ill or they're students or whatever they are. We don't want these people here, do we?
No, look, this is completely the right decision. And let's be fair to her, Shabana Mahmood is defending our interests, which is exactly her job as Home Secretary. So I'm very pleased she's doing it. This started actually at the time of the Gaza operations in October the 7th, when we had many requests. And I do remember many people from the Foreign Office asking us to, just let them go without biometrics. And I'm afraid I was very clear on it. The answer is no. You do the biometrics. If you have to do them in Egypt, you do them in Egypt. But there's absolutely no way we're allowing onward travel to the UK.
I'm sorry, I forget the niceties. I don't want anyone from there. They are almost, to a man and a woman, utterly radicalised and a danger to us. One of the key things that's come out of these hostages, and we saw yesterday, the final body of the final hostage seized on October the 7th returned to Israel by the IDF, by the way, not by Hamas as part of this deal. And the key thing, as everyone's pointed out, during what happened with the Nazis in Germany and in all across Europe, there are so many stories of good people doing the right thing to hide Jews, to save children. There is not one story out of Gaza, one story from one hostage who was taken of any kindness or any help given by any Gazan. I'm sorry, I don't want these people anywhere near us.
Look, it's completely grim, and the reality is we need to be much tougher on our borders, and that's why, I go back to, when Suella was Home Secretary, I agree, things did get out of hand, and she's right to look back on those days and to feel sorry that the Conservative Party let them down, but,
Yep.
Who was Home Secretary?
It's a small point. Tom Tugendhat, always good to talk to you. We covered an awful lot of the world there. Conservative MP still continue to be, and former Security Minister. Tom Slater's also with us in the studio. Tom, where are you on any of these topics, really? I'll leave it to you to decide.
Well, I think just coming back to the question of China, it's so clear that the reason that Keir Starmer has decided to go to Beijing, the same way that Mark Carney, Canada's Prime Minister, recently struck a new trade deal, a new accord with the Chinese Communist Party, is from a position of kind of relative weakness. There's a sense that economically there's not a lot of ideas as to how to generate prosperity domestically, and certainly doesn't want to go near any of the net zero rules that might actually help things tick over a bit better. And so there's this hope that some inward investment or some more trade will come riding to the rescue. So I think it's just a reminder that the more exposed you are economically, militarily, whatever, obviously, it sounds so obvious, but it's worth re-saying, the weaker you are in this era of great power conflict.
Yep.
The penny hasn't even
All
dropped
the obvious
yet,
things need to keep being said again and again, because they don't seem to be obvious to the people in charge anymore.